Welcome back to another Bible study, and this week we're going to be looking at Malachi. Malachi is going to be our next reading for next Sunday, and you probably haven't heard much about Malachi. You hear a lot about Jeremiah and Isaiah, and they have larger texts than Malachi. But Malachi is very interesting, very unique. And so one of the reasons why is that Malachi is the last of the prophets. He's in the book of the Bible. If you go, all the prophets' books are put together. The last one is Malachi. Now, the other thing that I find fascinating about Malachi is at the very, very end, the last verse of the last book of the prophets, there is a prophecy. And Malachi says that the prophecy is that Elijah is going to return, come back to prepare for the day of the Lord. And so that's an interesting thing because who is this Elijah? Well, Elijah is actually the first prophet that started the prophetic era. As you know, that we had a lot of bad kings, and God says, well, I need a good leader. I have to have good leadership. If the kings are going to be bad, I need some shepherd to guide the people into the right direction. So to take the place of the bad kings, he would have a prophet. So the first one of these prophets that God gave to Israel was Elijah. Another thing about Elijah is Elijah never dies. He's taken up into heaven. He's standing beside the Jordan River, and he is taken up to heaven by God. And you say, well, that's nice, but why? I mean, Abraham wasn't taken up to heaven alive, and Moses died, and so why Elijah? Well, we don't get the answer until the end of Malachi, the last verse of the last book of Malachi, where it says that Elijah is to return. And the reason why Elijah has to return is to bring about this great day of the Lord. So there you are. You're somebody, and you just read the whole book of the prophets, and the last thing in your mind is that Elijah's going to be coming back. So you're looking for Elijah, right? So the Bible gives us a really good description of what Elijah looked like. So Elijah was last seen standing around the Jordan River with as a hairy man with a leather belt around his waist. So what does that sound like? It sounds like John the Baptist, right? John the Baptist is standing around the river, and he has a hairy coat with camel's hair with a leather belt around his waist. And so that is so Elijah returns through John the Baptist, and so to prepare the day of the Lord, which is Christ. Now think of it this way. So you have a bunch of bad kings. So you have your first prophet, which is Elijah. Then you have another bad king, another prophet, another bad king, another prophet, until finally you get to the end where you have Elijah coming back, who's the last and the first prophet and the last prophet. After that, you have the day of the Lord, which is Christ. Christ is now the new king, but he's a good king, and he's going to last forever. He's going to reign forever. So you don't need any more prophets. So Elijah actually becomes the first prophet and then the last prophet. It's not Malachi himself, so he's announcing this great news that we're going to be getting a king, a really good king with good leadership, where you're not going to need prophets anymore. Now, what makes Malachi interesting is that he has, the whole book is set up with arguments with God. There are disputes. And the way it works is this. God says something, and then Israel, the people, they respond by questioning what God just said, or doubting it, or arguing with God. They disagree. And then God responds. Like, for instance, God says to the Israelites in one of these disputes, one of the 6, he says, you're robbing me. And the Israelites said, when are we robbing you? What do you mean by that? And then God says, well, you're robbing me because you give everybody, you're generous to everybody. You pay your workers in the field. You pay the barber when he cuts your hair. You're always giving out different things to everybody for certain reasons. And I get nothing. You give me nothing. I said, I provide you with I give you hands, I give you feet, eyes, I give you water from the sky, give you light so you can grow things. I do all kinds of things for you, and you don't give me anything back. You never show your appreciation. And as if I'm not a part of your life. Another dispute is God says to the Israelites, you say bad things about me. So the Israelites say, what do you mean? What do you mean that we say bad things about? What do we say bad about you? And then God says, you say that you obey the 10 Commandments, but what good is that? Why should we bother to serve? Why should we keep obeying the 10 Commandments? It doesn't give us anything. We don't get anything better. Nothing improves in our lives. He says, look at the enemies. They get much better than we do. And why even bother? And then God says to them that you got to wait. You got to wait for the day of the Lord. And so this is the big, so Malachi is presenting this the day of the Lord is something special, something that's going to be in the future. To give you an example of what this particular dispute is about, is when I just got here to St. Clements. It was my second assignment. I loved my first assignment. So I was a little sad leaving my first assignment and I came here to St. Clements. And so I didn't have many friends here, or I didn't know many people, and it was a Saturday night. So he says, I think I'll just clean the church, prepare for Sunday morning. So I go in, and one of the seminarians says, I'll help you. So I turn on all the lights, and I'm getting my bucket ready and my mop. And the seminarian walks into the sacristy and says, Father Peter, there's a fire in the church. I said, a fire in the church? So I look up, and one of the chandeliers, one of the lights is on fire. There's a flame coming out of the smoke. And so it's an electric fire. I go, oh no. So I turn off all the lights. So there I am standing in the church in complete darkness. And the seminarian says, I got to get a flashlight. So I'm waiting for him. And while I'm waiting, the votive lamp beside the tabernacle is lit. So it's the only light. And I have one of these disputes of Malachi. I have a dispute with God. And God says to me, oh, Peter, this is going to be a terrific story. So I say to God, what do you mean this is going to be a terrific story? How could this possibly be a terrific story? And God says, he says, well, you'll have to see. You'll see in the future. You'll see. He says, will you just let me finish the story? And I say, oh, okay, God, I'll let you finish the story. And I did. And I have to say that it's one of the most wonderful experiences being at St. Clements, the people that I've met and the things that we've done there in the church, and many people I've had the honor of ministering to. It's just been just a wonderful experience. And God was right. God was right. And I think that's the point of Malachi. Malachi wants to say that, yeah, sometimes we don't feel like God is just. And that's exactly what the reading here is that it says, lo, the day is coming, the day of the Lord is coming, that the Son of Justice, that means the light of justice, is going to come with its healing rays. And it's going to affect us, and it's going to be very, very powerful. And it's us that really wants to say that God is truly in our lives, and sometimes we don't see it. Sometimes we just have to hear God say, let me finish the story. Of course, we remember when Jesus died on the cross, and all the disciples, they abandoned Jesus. The women were very sad. Everybody was sad. The two men who were going to Emmaus were very upset. They left sad. And it was almost God saying, will you just let me finish the story? There's the resurrection. And I think that sometimes we're halfway through the story, and we got to remember that God is talking to us, saying, will you just let me finish the story? Let me finish the story of your life. So sometimes these moments of darkness, sometimes these moments when we are suffering or we don't feel like we're progressing at all, you got to hear God. We have to have that Malachi dispute, have that argument with God. Hear God saying to you, are you generous? Are you faithful? Are you kind? We need to hear that from God so we can respond and say, I am. I'm with you. I'm 100% with you. And so when we go to church next Sunday and you hear the words of this great prophet Malachi, understand and know to say to God, God, I know things aren't perfect, but it's part of the story. This is what makes a great story. And I trust you, and I look forward to when the story is over. And that way we can really have hope, and really put our full hope and faith in God. So thank you for joining us this week. I hope you enjoyed Malachi, and we have another exciting reading next week, so please come back.